It is Monday, 24th March. Good morning and welcome to today's program, empowered by Carl & Sons Unique Bakery on the island of St. Martin, with 3 locations on that island, in Cold Bay, at the St. Martin's Medical Center, and on the Pontville. This is your host, Mervin Hanley, and I invite you to subscribe to the channel, just in case you have not done so already. We have much to cover this morning, so let's get started. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will embark on his first official visit to the Caribbean, a strategic 3-nation tour that underscores the importance of U.S.-Caribbean relations. Secretary Rubio's journey will include meetings with several Caribbean leaders, including Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness, Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Stuart Young. The primary objectives of the visit are to address pressing regional issues, bolster diplomatic relationships, and reaffirm the United States' commitment to the Caribbean. Following Jamaica, Rubio will travel to Guyana, where he is expected to meet with key government officials to discuss bilateral trade, security cooperation, and energy exploration, particularly in light of Guyana's recent oil discoveries that have significant implications for its economy and regional power. The final leg of Rubio's tour will focus on Haiti, where the deteriorating security situation has prompted international concern. Talks will likely revolve around U.S. assistance, humanitarian support, and strategies to stabilize the country amid ongoing crises. In addition to security issues, Rubio tour comes at a time when U.S. policies are impacting Caribbean economies. Prime Minister Gaston Browne of Antigua and Barbuda has warned that any global move to restrict Chinese shipping could have severe consequences for Caribbean nations, including potential food shortages, according to the Antigua newsroom. Speaking on his Brown and Brown radio program on Point FM, the Prime Minister criticized what he described as idiots advocating for trade restrictions against China, particularly the banning of Chinese ships from international commerce. According to the Prime Minister, if the Americans were to implement those kind of tariff regimes and ban Chinese ships, Caribbean people are going to starve because we get the majority of our stuff from China. Most of the food, the manufactured goods, even building materials, furniture, everything coming out of China. Browne underscored the deep dependency of small island states on affordable imports, particularly from Asia. What they're doing is playing with fire, he added, warning that such moves could trigger widespread disruption across the region. China is one of the Caribbean's largest trading partners, particularly in sectors like construction, electronics, food products, and consumer goods. Any sharp increase in tariff or restrictions could inflate costs and strain supply chains on island economies, already grappling with inflation and climate-related shocks. Meanwhile, Guyana's President Ali has voiced concern over U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to impose tariffs on ships, vessels made in China, saying this could impact trade in Guyana and the region. In a statement on Saturday, the president said Guyana, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago would need to assess the implications for tankers and other vessels transporting oil and gas. That, of course, can have effects on the cost of goods coming into the region, the president said. This is a policy that was alluded to, so there are some discussions that will have to occur. So all of these things are key regional issues that we are discussing together. Some of these challenges were raised by the regional private sector organization during a recent emergency virtual meeting held by CARICOM heads. The U.S. is our partner. The region recognizes that the U.S. is an important partner, and the regional private sector will be having some conversations with the U.S. We will also be having conversations with various sectors in the U.S. and actors. Secretary of State, for example, and also the chair of CARICOM will be seeking to have a meeting with the White House to go through some of these challenges that we may face and to have a better understanding of each other's positions, Ali said. He noted that while the policy is not yet implemented, we have to have early conversations to mitigate or minimize the impact. And now, news out of the diaspora, and this is especially for those of you who are paying your taxes in the United States, but you do not have a social security number. You probably have an ITIN number, that's a tax ID number, and you're probably without your legal documents. But you work and you pay your taxes. But here is something that you may want to pay attention to. The IRS is nearing a data sharing agreement with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement that would allow immigration officials to use tax data to support the Trump administration's deportation agenda. 2 sources familiar with the matter told ABC News. After weeks of negotiations, administration officials are closing to reach an agreement that would enable immigration officials, ICE officials, to submit names and addresses of suspected immigrants lacking legal status for the IRS to check against its confidential databases. The use of sensitive taxpayer information to further the Trump administration's immigration policies has alarmed professionals within the IRS. Section 6103 of the Federal Tax Code requires the IRS to keep individual taxpayer information confidential with certain limited exceptions, which includes law enforcement agencies for investigation and the prosecution of non-tax criminal laws, with approval from a court, according to the agency's website. The IRS has allowed immigrants without legal status to file income tax returns with individual tax numbers or items. These immigrants contributed $25.7 billion in Social Security taxes using borrowed or fraudulent Social Security numbers, according to the Bipartisan Policy Center. So again, what the Trump administration is doing, if you're not legal in America, but you're paying your taxes, they're getting that information about you, on you, your names and addresses. And I guess you can figure out the rest from there. Yeah? Now, news from the United States Virgin Islands. Governor Albert Bryan Jr. is calling for a 20% tax on Airbnb rentals in the United States Virgin Islands, aiming to ease the housing crisis by discouraging short-term rentals and pushing visitors back to hotels while freeing up units for local residents. Governor Albert Bryan used the 2025 Spring Revenue Estimate Conference as a platform to propose key policy shifts aimed at securing the U.S. Virgin Islands' economic stability amid shifting consumer trends and persistent structural costs. Speaking candidly before attendees on Friday, Governor Bryan stressed the need for a new approach to how the government analyzes and manages its revenue and expenditure. He reiterated that while revenue projections appear steady, the real concern lies in rising costs. I don't expect that we're going to have a problem with revenue for the next 10 to 15 years. The problem will be expenses, the governor said in his opening remarks. Among his most pointed proposals was a call to increase the Airbnb tax to 20%. Governor Bryan framed the issue as twofold: shifting short-term visitors back into traditional hotels to support the hospitality industry and addressing a growing housing crisis for local residents. If we move the Airbnb tax to like 20%, it does two things. It encourages more people to go into hotels, he said, adding that the infrastructure for hotels is already in place and in need of greater occupancy. Governor Bryan suggested that the growing number of Airbnb units, many of which were once long-term rentals, has contributed to the current housing shortage. By discouraging property owners from listing their units as short-term rentals, the higher tax could help shift more properties back into the long-term rental market, making them accessible to teachers, nurses, and other working residents. Right now in St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, rent is astronomical, Governor Bryan said, blaming part of the issue on the proliferation of Airbnb properties. We have 4,000 Airbnb rooms. We need to decrease that number so our teachers, our nurses, our working people have some place to stay. He differentiated between Airbnb listings and villas, saying the latter cater to a different clientele and shouldn't be subject to the same increased rate. We have people coming in for a room for $150 a night, when we could be getting $300 a night and 12.5 hotel room percentage tax on that. And we are displacing our local people, he said, referring ostensibly to the impact of the hospitality industry as the Airbnb market expands. Of course, we are also following the latest recent developments in the British Virgin Islands, where the opposition members within His Majesty's loyal opposition, they wrote to His Excellency the Governor, requesting a new opposition leader. And that new opposition leader, I believe, will be sworn in later this morning, the Honorable Myron Walwyn. Well, I believe we saw that coming. So it's going to be very interesting in the next elections there in the British Virgin Islands between Premier Natalia Wheatley and Myron Walwyn, his party. The news, of course, was powered by Carl & Son's Unique Bakery on the island of St. Martin. Do join me again on Wednesday morning for a similar presentation, be it news or commentary, right here on this network's channel. I am Mervin Hanley, and I'm wishing you a blessed day.
Carl & Sons have been serving the people of St. Martin for over 40 years. And the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at morning and last thing at afternoon folks rush to Carl & Sons for simply the best. There are two locations, Colbay and on the Pondville. In Colbay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Pondville, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Carl & Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Colbay location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you.
Nevis, satisfy your sweet tooth at Feaser's, the cozy spot in Charlestown, known for its mouth-watering ice cream and doll parade. We are open Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in and sample our patties, sandwiches, air-fried wings with fries, hot dogs, rotis, and now our famous smoothies, in all flavors of course. And don't forget to try the famous bus-up shut and saltfish. It's Feaser's, located at the entrance to the Cotton Ginnery Mall in Charlestown, Nevis. They're also available by phone, so place your order by calling 1-869-665-2458. Don't ask about the rest, just try the best.